Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. It's the week after Easter, and I'm tired. It happens every year, and if you know anything about being a pastor, the time of Lent, and especially Holy Week, is an incredibly busy time, and pastors end up exhausted by the time Easter is over. Which leads me to these morning Pastor Gary Live moments with you. With all that we had going on last week, there just wasn't much opportunity or inspiration to pull together much for this week. In the end, I decided to cheat a little and rehash some things I did years ago. You see, each month in our church newsletter, I write an article called Sightings because I often try to write about how I have seen God in some unexpected places. So I went back into my files, and this week I'm going to present some of those articles I wrote at the time of Easter over the years. I hope you forgive these reruns. I hope you enjoy them too. Something's wrong with me. Now, I know plenty of people who wouldn't give you an argument about that. My guess is that they raise their eyebrows in curiosity and say in disbelief, just one thing? So I guess I should say there's one particular weirdness that I plan to address here today. I guess there's only one way to admit this. Hi, my name is Gary, and I like to polish silver. I really do. I don't know why, but ever since I was a little boy and inherited this chore from my older brother and sister, who were glad to give it up, I have loved to polish the silver. When I was growing up, we had a silver coffee and tea set, tray, 2 pitchers, and a creamer and a sugar bowl, and I would listen eagerly for my mother to say we were having company because I knew that one chore I was likely to be given was to polish the silver. Out would come the rag and some pink liquid I never did learn the name of, and I would get to work. What started me thinking about all this was that just recently my mother passed on to us some of her silver pieces that she isn't going to use anymore. And the real truth is that it appeared that it had been quite some time since she had used them at all. To say that they were tarnished would be an understatement. They were black. There were trays and some bowls that Nan could use in our entertaining, and in the middle of it all, there were those pitchers and that sugar bowl and creamer. And again, tarnished doesn't begin to do justice to the shape they were in. I got them home and started to work. I started with some of the easy pieces, some of the trays, for example, and some of the pieces that seemed to have been used in this century and weren't quite so tarnished. But after I got my technique down again, I moved to one of those large tea pitchers. I sat it down on the table and stared at it like an old friend. It stared back silently, helpless, pleading for me to do something to help it be restored to its intended luster. I dug into the polishing cream with the rag and dabbed some on the belly of the pitcher and began to rub. A fine, dull glaze covered the area I was working on, but something seemed to be happening. And then, like the instructions said, I took it to the sink and washed it off. And suddenly, gleaming back at me was a beautiful silver surface, so mirror-like that I could see myself. And it was right then in the middle of Lent, right then with the water still running over my hand holding that pitcher, that another thought dawned bright and clear. That's Easter. That's what Jesus does for us. Because you see, something's wrong with all of us. We call it sin, and it tarnishes our lives and makes us ugly and not at all how we're supposed to be in God's eyes. That's where Easter comes in. Jesus takes our dark, tarnished lives, and through his sacrifice, he makes us pure and clean and bright and shining. Because of Easter, because of his love, we're changed, so much so that when people look at us, they see the image and reflection of God. The waters of baptism make us pure and clean. That's what Easter is about. That's what Jesus does for us. That's the good news. Something's wrong with all of us. Polish us, Lord Jesus. Once again, make us new. Thanks for watching, and remember to let this day belong to God.